Imbibers, a very good afternoon to all of you. Once again, we are here with the another topic from your morphology of flowering plants. Yes, we have actually completed the introduction of the morphology plants. We have discussed about the root and we have also discussed about the modifications of the root and the functions of the roots, and we also had one practice session. So moving forward with that particular lesson, today we're going to start with the another topic of this particular chapter, which is the morphology of stem. Yes, we're going to discuss about the stem. First we have discussed about the roots. Now we're moving towards the shoot system, and the very first thing in the shoot system is the stem. So we're going to discuss about the morphology of the stem, the modification, the function, and etc. Yes, so before that, let me introduce you to myself. I am Anam. I'll be your botany expert for the session 2023 and 2024, and we're going to discuss all the amazing and interesting topics related to biology. Yes, just like we have already completed, yes, your 3 chapters. Yes, we have completed biological classification, we have completed your plant kingdom, and we are also going on with the morphology of flowering plants, and we're going to complete this soon as possible. Yes, so without wasting any time, let's start our session. Yes, but before we start, children, I request you to always register for the upcoming classes and attempt the pre-class activities before coming to the session. And after the session gets over, I request you to please go for the past Embibe classes so that you know whether you have understood the concept or not in detail. Yes, the Embibe app gives you a facility so that you can come with the preparation, and after the class gets over, you can always test yourself that whether you have understood the concept or not. And you can always register for the upcoming classes. We have scheduled all your classes on the Embibe app. So whenever you do a particular class, you can always register for the upcoming classes so that you can have an update by the class time starts. And if you have missed any session, yes, if you have missed any session by any chance due to anything, there's always and always past Embibe classes on your dashboard. So whenever you have time, you can go through them. Yes, you can actually revise your concept whenever you want. So let's start our today's session. Morphology of stem in flowering plants, talking about it. The next we have the introduction. The topic to be discussed today is of course the stem. We have done about the root, we have done the introduction, and the following topic will be discussed in the upcoming classes, which is related to the leaf, inflorescence, flower, fruit, seed, semi-technical description of some families, and of course some important families. Everything would be discussed in the upcoming sessions. Yes, would be totally related to your examination. Moving forward, next we have the today's topic. Today we're going to cover the concepts related to these things. We're going to discuss about the stem, we're going to discuss about the nodes of a stem, we're going to discuss about the internodes of a stem, we're going to discuss about the modification, aerial stem, tendril, thorns, underground stem, bulbils, rhizomes, corms, and stem tubers. Yes, so in detail we're going to discuss everything related to stem, so that when the next time you have a session, which is of course the practice session related to the stem, you will be well prepared with everything. Yes, but before we start, before we move forward, let's have a quick recap of what we have studied in the previous session. Giving you a quick recap of what we have studied in the previous session, we have studied about the root, we have studied about the tap root system, we have studied about the fibrous root system, and we have studied about the adventitious root system. Yes, the tap root system is a characteristics of a dicot because it's a true root system coming out from a radical. Yes, and the direction elongation radical lead to the formation of a primary root, and then secondary, and then tertiary. Then the lateral roots further divide into secondary and tertiary. There is a fibrous root system which is a characteristic of a monocot. Yes, which is a characteristic of a monocot. The primary root is short-lived and replaced by enormous number of roots. The growth of the stem is at the base, example the wheat plant. And then we have a false root system, which is the adventitious root system. The roots are arising apart from the radical. Yes, so children, arising from the parts of the plant other than the radical, which is the banyan tree. All of you have seen the adventitious roots. The prop roots in the banyan tree is a clear example of the adventitious root system. So the root helps in the absorption, conduction of water, mineral, providing the typical support, and also store food. So there's a various functions of the root which they are being performed. And next, today let's start our topic, which is the stem. So following the stem, the very first thing, children, come to your mind, yes, there are different types of animals and they have distinct from each other. Yes or no? all these animals are being very much different from each other, yes or no? As you can see, Moving forward, the stem is a part of the shoot system found just above the soil in a majority of the plants. Yes, typically the basic morphology, the basic understanding of the stem, that the stem will be always and always above the ground. Yes, a part which is above the soil will be considered as a stem. So stem is a part of a shoot system found above the soil in a majority of the plants. Majority means, of course, yes, I know there are certain variations, there are certain modifications, but we will always consider the major part. And talking about the major part, we always have the stem which is always present above the soil is called as the stem, which is a part of the shoot system. So that is why the basic definition of the stem is a part of a shoot system found above the soil in majority of the plants. Talking more about it, next we have the stem. And children, we are going to always elaborate the stem is the ascending portion of the axis. What is the axis? You know, children, you always know there is a root which is present inside the soil. Once the roots germinating, yes, there is a plumule, there is a radicle. The plumule will typically develop into a shoot system. The radicle will develop into a root system. So the ascending axis which is basically moving upwards. Yes, that is what your stem, your ascending portion of the axis. Yes. Ascending portion of an axis that bears the branches, leaves, flowers, and of course the fruit. The root, the stem is a typically negatively geotropic, and as well as your root. Since your root, children, since your root is positively geotropic, your stem has to be negatively geotropic. Why? Because the stem always grows against the gravity, and that is why we are calling it as the negatively geotropic. It grows from the plumule of a seed's embryo during the germination. Yes, you know, in a dicot seed, if I talk about, this is the two part. One is the plumule, okay, another is the radicle. Yes, this plumule part will further develop into a shoot system. Yes, it develops into a shoot system, while the radicle will develop into a root system. Yes, so this is what talking about the stem. The stem grows from the plumule of the seeds in the embryo during the germination. During the embryo, when it germinates, the plumule part of the embryo will convert into a shoot system, and the shoot system consists of a stem. Okay, so this is how basically, this is a basic, I know all of you know this, but this is a very basic thing, we have to start it with this. So moving forward, talking more about the stem, children, as you can also see over here before we go forward, this is a bean, this is of course a seed. You can see this is a plumule part which is giving rise to the leaf structure, which eventually develop into a shoot system, and this is the radical part will eventually develop into a root system. Yes, this is a dicot, yes, developing into a root system and the shoot system individually. Yes, moving forward about the stem, next we have the stem, or the features of the stem, or the characteristics of the stem. Talking about the features of the stem and the characteristics of the stem, stem has nodes and internodes. Yeah, the stem has nodes as well as the internodes. The nodes are the parts of the stem where leaves develop, and internodes are the places in between the nodes. Yes, so children, what is a node and what is a internode? I will give you a very common example of this. Everybody knows a sugar cane. Sugar cane. Yes, can you see this? This is how your sugar cane looks like. Don't go on my drawing. Yes, and you know the sugar cane, there is a hard part in between. Yes or no? Just saying, this is your sugar cane. The long part, juicy part which you consume, just giving an example, is your internode. Yes, and the part which have little bit of hairs, you have seen the brown outgrowth in them, that part is called nodes. So the stem, your sugarcane is what? Sugarcane is a stem. Yes. So sugarcane, all of you have seen sugarcane, that why the juicy part between the two nodes is called internodes, and the node is somewhere a little hard, having a little bit hairy like structure over it. That is the part which you called as nodes. But the nodes are absolutely important because the developing words which may be axillary or terminal arise from the nodes itself. Young stem are often green, but they frequently turn dark brown and woody as they age. Yes. Generally a stem, if you see a plant stem, it is generally green, but as the age rises, at the time rises, it becomes dark brown, it becomes woody as they age. So developing buds, which newly formed buds which eventually develop into a whole branches in the shoot system, which may be axillary, and of course it can be terminal. It would be as the axile, it could be at the terminal end. The young stems, of course, the newly formed stems from the plumule. Yes, the young stem is definitely of a green color, the very juicy and very green of colors, but as they basically grow old, the stems becomes very dark brown and become the woody, and that's why we also consume the furniture, the wood from these part of the trees only. Yes. So children, this is about the stem characteristics which have nodes as well as the internodes. The nodes are the parts where basically the buds will arise, the elongation, the stem formation will take place, the branches formation will take place, and the young stem would be green, and as they age they become dark brown. See, that's why I have given you an example of a perfect example of the sugarcane which have nodes as well as the internodes. Now you will be more familiar with that. You can also see inside this, but I know sugarcane is the very fine example of telling you and explaining you what is a node and what is an internode. Moving forward, talking more about the stem, let's click and see the different parts of a tomato plant. Yes, let's see this. The parts, can you see children? These are the different parts of a plant. Yes, can you see down the more detailed explanation? This is a leaf, this is a, can you see, this is a terminal bud which is present at the terminal. This is the axillary bud. Yes, can you see, this is an axillary bud. These are the roots, these are the nodes present, and these are the internodes. Can you see this? These are the nodes where this is arising, these are the nodes, and between these are the internodes. So all these parts are basically significance. All these parts are basically signifying the whole structure of a particular plant and their parts. They have leaves, they have axillary leaves, they have roots, they have nodes, they have internodes, they have leaves, they have terminal buds, they have axillary bud, and each part basically grow to create a whole new good growth and development in a particular plant. So these are the particular parts of the plant, giving you very specific idea that this is the axillary bud which is on the axial side, this is the terminal bud which will be at the terminal ends. Yes, top end, bottom end would be, there would be roots, there would be nodes, and of course the internodes, there would be leaves, and there would be fruit. You know, these are the basic structure of a particular plant, not to tell you at the 11th standard, but still making you more understandable about the whole parts of the particular stem. Moving forward, discussing more about the stem, next we have the functions of the stem. Oh, everybody knows about the function of the stem. Major function of the stem, since you know children, it is spread out branches that bears leaves, flowers and fruits. Yes, so whatever the roots will be absorbing will be given to the stem, and the stem would be responsible for transporting the water, the mineral, the necessary hormones for the growth and development. It transports minerals, photosynthesis, the whole photosynthesis, the products of photosynthesis, of course the food, and of course the water, everything, because the stem, the branches have the phloem, while the whole elongated part of the stem, the central part of the stem will be having the xylem. The xylem is always unidirectional, so it will be always in the main stem, but on the branches side, which is basically big, the whole branches will be having phloem, and phloem tends to basically conduct both water as well as the mineral. Since we're talking about the xylem, xylem is absolutely concentrated towards the transport of only water as well as the mineral. The phloem takes the food, the phloem takes the hormones, the phloem takes the minerals, everything will be transported through the phloem, because phloem in the stem is typically whole, I would say they are being spread like a branches. The phloem, the branches have been having all the particular part of the phloem. The phloem will tend to basically transport all the essential things needed for the transport through the roots and through the stem. The stem will be always having, the main stem would be always having the xylem. Yes, some serve as a means of food, storage, support, protection and a vegetative reproduction. Yes, some basically serve as a means of food, storage, support, protection and vegetative reproduction. What is vegetative reproduction? All of you know that sometimes the plants do not reproduce sexually as well as the asexual method. The plant part itself can basically form a new plant, and that is what we call as vegetative reproduction. Any part, any bird, any small stem would basically will cut and will basically sow in the soil, it will generate into a new plant. So that is what you call vegetative reproduction. It is not exclusively called as asexual reproduction. It is because the part of the plant, yes, the part of the parent plant will develop, giving birth, giving rise to a new particular element or new particular plant. Yes, so basically it also serves as a storage. The things can be stored in some particular stem. They basically support, you know, that it is basically supporting the whole huge plant and trees, and they're always there for the protection. So these are the particular functions of the stem. Yes, moving forward, discussing more about, next we have aerial modifications of the stem. Yes, how does the aerial modification, the part which is above the particular ground, will have certain modification. Aerial, you know, which is in the contact in the air, the above surface. Some are the stem which have modified, the aerial part of the stem which has modified into different things. Let's see basically. Yes, the thorns. Everybody has seen a cactus plant. Those cactus plants having a very sharp long thorns, and you're not able to touch it because you know it is going to hurt. Yes, those thorns are nothing but the modification of the aerial part of the stem. What are the features of the thorns, children? The thorns are basically having axillary stem buds have potentially developed into a woody, erect and prominent thorns. All of you have seen, it's very thick, it's like kind of a woody. So basically the axillary stem buds, the buds which are on the axillary stem, has potentially developed into a woody, erect and pointed stem. And many plants including the citrus and bougainvillea have thorns. Yes, of course, the difference between thorns and prickles, you know, thorns are a little bit more in length, they are more thick, and yes, of course, the thorns are basically present on such particular plants, especially the cactus, citrus and of course the bougainvillea. Thorns are defend plants against the animals that browse. Yes, what? This is a whole mechanism of the plant to stay away from the predators, to do not let the predators eat them away. Yes, that is why the thorns are nothing but these are the method of protection from any kind of particular animal which is going to browse. Yes, some also aid regional plants transform their stem into radiant opentia or fleshy cylindrical euphoria, shapes that contain chlorophyll and perform photosynthesis. Some arid regional plants, some area, the plants which are present in the semi-arid regions, yes, have transformed their stem. You know the basic photosynthesis takes place in the leaf, but there are certain particular areas in which certain plants have modified their stem only to do the photosynthesis. So yes, there are certain stem also which have chlorophyll, yes, which does the photosynthesis, and such plants are the opuntia, which is having fleshy cylindrical, which is basically round, and basically fleshy cylindrical in the euphorbia shapes. They contain chlorophyll and undergo the process of photosynthesis. These examples are absolutely important, can be asked in your examination, that which are certain modification of the aerial stem which will undergo the process of photosynthesis, which can basically make their own food. Yes, you know the leaves are basically responsible for doing the photosynthesis. The leaves have chlorophyll and the chloroplast which does all the photosynthesis, but yes, there are certain modification of the aerial stem which also undergo the process of photosynthesis. Yes, moving forward, next we have the tendrils. Shall we go back? Yes, let's click about this. Next, talking about the tendrils. All of you have seen a coriander plant, all of you have seen a particular pumpkin plant, all of you have seen grapes. If you have not seen, at least you can always see a pumpkin plant. Yes, so you know the pumpkin is not basically present on the trees. The pumpkin is basically whole, it is spreaded on the ground only, it is touching the ground only. So the cylinder spirally coiled stem tendrils growth form axillary bud and assist the plant in climbing. I know all of you must have seen there are certain plants at your home and maybe in your surroundings that they basically just go and I would say they just climb to the upper part. Yes, if you give them certain support, if you just tie them above the rope, they will just coil around the rope and they will keep on growing. Yes, all of you have heard this bale. Yes, we call it as bale in Hindi. Yes, so children, this is nothing but a tendril part of the stem which is very soft cylinder and which can basically climb up. Yes, which is going to be climb up and forming the whole stem. Yes, so children, the example of such kind of a stem can be seen in the grapevines, gourds like cucumber, pumpkin and watermelon. You yourself think about it, watermelon is so heavy. The pumpkin is also very big. It is not possible for them to basically just hang there in the tree. So basically they are spreading on the ground because of the help of the tendrils. They are basically spreading over because these are cylindrical, very cylindrical soft structures but basically climb easily, just spread easily moment they get a little support. So these are the modification of the aerial stem only, which may become the cylindrical and basically can coil around and we can easily act as a support. Yes. This is about the aerial modification of the stem. As we go back, let's see what we have next. Next we have subaerial modification. We have seen the aerial modification. Now the part of the plants which are not exactly above the ground but not exactly under the water also or under the soil also. Subaerial, just above the ground. Okay, some are basically in the very heighted. Yes, some are basically especially the little bit on the surface, like just attached to the surface of the soil. Let's see about. So children, vegetative reproduction. All of you know this is just now we have given you an example of the vegetative reproduction. Plants like grasses and strawberries have underground stem called runners and stolons that give rise to a new plant. Yes, all of you have ever, you know that you have sat in a particular ground area and what you do, you just take out this stem because you're just sitting on the grass, those grasses which are basically spread all over the ground, they have runners or stolon and they are vegetatively propagated. Yes, they can easily spread because they are part of the grass. The stolon, the particular runner is easily vegetatively propagated. Yes, they can basically give up rise to, they can easily spread because they have found to have, they have been found to have the nerves and stolon which can easily spread out and form a new organism. A thin lateral branch develops from the base of the main stem like a mint and jasmine after growing aerially for bends down and touch the ground. Yes, sometimes, can you see children? This is the plant. Sometimes a plant is growing upwards but since it is not very thick, it is thin, it does not have that much of strength, so it is basically just falling little bit down. And the moment it falls down, the whole stem will touch the other part and will give rise to a new plant also. A thin lateral branches develop from the base of main axis like mint and the jasmine. Yes, sometimes there is a mint, there is a whole stolon which is basically very thin and maybe the runner, that particular stolon will give rise to a new plant also. They have thin lateral branches developing on the sideways. Yes, these horizontal stem runners are sent outward from the base of the plant and distance variable at the nodes. Yes, these horizontal stems or runners sent outwards from the base of the plant and a variable distances at nodes to form new plants. Yes, you know children, these plants, the grasses especially, can spread easily. They have spread it over the whole lawn, over the whole ground, and the reason because of that is that they basically have nodes which basically form a new plants. Yes, check out let's how we propagate the strawberry plant. Yes, let's see basically how we can propagate the strawberry plant. Yes, can you see? Just click on the strawberry. See, this is a part of the plant, this is a stem and eventually it is spreading and giving rise to a new plant. I have cut that particular part and basically move that particular plant onto the different surface, and they can basically give rise to a new plant. Yes, this is how vegetative propagation through the stem is basically taking place. Once again, I can just do it because of you. Yes, let's see. See, this is how they're laterally running, giving to rise to a new plant, and if I cut them from the between and take it to the another particular soil, it will eventually grow into a new plant. So this is how the stem can be vegetatively propagated if they have stolons and runners. So this is how the vegetative propagation takes place from the other parts of the plant. Yes, moving back, next we have let's see about the aquatic plants. So children, vegetative propagation is also seen in the aquatic plants. All of you have seen the pond near your particular areas, and see that green leafy structure plant is covering the whole surface of the particular pond. Yes, it's absolutely green, it's spread it out in the whole area. What is that? That is what? That is Eichhornia. And how they have been spreading? They're spreading because they have offset. Yes, offset is what? It is a stem only. Yes, the vegetative propagation in aquatic plants, especially in the Eichhornia, Pistia and Eichhornia, have lateral branches called offset. What is an offset? One internode long runner having nodes or beers phylocate rosettes of the leaves of the tufts. So this part is this part. These are having nodes, and this runner between them is called the internode. So this is exactly how you will always see such kind of a plants covering the whole pond area. Yes, each node contain a rosette of leaves and a tufts of fruit. Can you see this? This is how your aquatic plants which are floating, you can see this is how they are. They have these roots just under the plant. They have this leafy structure above the plant, typically rosette like structure, and this is basically tied with the offset, and this is how they keep on growing and keep on spreading to the whole area. Offset helps in vegetative propagation and give rise to new plants from the axillary or the terminal buds. Yes, the offset is capable of giving rise to a new plants through the axillary and of course the terminal buds. So this is how the vegetative propagation is taking place in the aquatic. The land plants will have runners and stolon. On the other hand, the aquatic plants will have what? They will have the offset, and offset will be responsible giving rise to the new plants because they have axillary buds and terminal buds. Yes, going back children, let's see underground modification of the stem. All of you know about the underground modification. Yes, typically a plant have a stem which is above the ground, but yes, there are certain modification in the plants is the stem is not above the ground, the stem is under the soil. Yes, let's talk about those underground modification of the stem. Clicking on this, talking about the tubers, all of you have seen what? Potato. Potato is what? Potato is a tuber. It is an underground stem. Modified underground stem, children generally store starch. Example, potatoes. Arise, stolon ends and stolons contain many adventitious and unusual buds, commonly known as eyes on potato. All of you have seen such kind of eyes on the potatoes. These can be vegetatively propagated. Yes. So children, these eyes which is basically present on the potatoes can be vegetatively propagated, and the functions such as perennation organs, organs that help to survive germination season, especially under unfavorable condition. So you know, potato is easily available. The potato has a good growth because they can avoid the unfavorable condition because they are typically underground. Yes, they have this nature because they want to avoid the unfavorable condition and show the enough growth and development, and this is a modification of the underground stem. The very first example should come into your mouth is always tubers. Yes, talking more about the modification of underground stem, next we have bulbs. Yes, what? Onion, Abhyaas, simple. Abhyaas, what? A bulb is a underground onion, a modified disc-shaped stem. All of you have seen this particular onion. So children, the onion part is always there in the underground, and there are some cylinder structures which is basically above the ground. Consistent of relatively large, usually globe-shaped underground bud with membranous or fleshy overlapping. Storage reserves to ensure the plant's survival. Yes, they have certain storage to ensure the plant survival, and they are basically resting stage of certain seeds. They are also the resting stage of certain seeds. So, bulbs are also the modification of underground stem, which eventually give rise to this kind of yes, onions. Yes, all of you have seen. Next we have the rhizome. Simple. Ginger, all of you have seen ginger. Again, ginger is not a root, ginger is a stem. Ginger is an underground stem, horizontally growing underground stem, give rise to a new plant shoot system, store starch, proteins, enable plants from the premature underground and perennate underground, non-green with distinct nodes and internodes. All of you have seen the scaly regions on the ginger, those are nothing, those are nodes and internodes. These are auxiliary as well as apical bud. It also contains the terminal bud, example G, ginger. The rhizome, rootstock grows vertically upwards instead horizontally. Bananas and alocasia indica are some other examples of the rhizome. So, as you can see children, this is how basically this is the edible part of this particular stem, which is growing horizontally. Yes, horizontally, they are growing in horizontal manner, not vertical manner, and this is how basically it is being showing the perennation, avoiding the unfavorable conditions, surviving the unfavorable condition to show enough growth, and they have good amount of storage of proteins. Yes, as you can see, proteins and starch are basically found under these underground rhizomes. Yes, moving forward, next we have, let's see how basically the new plant is emerging from this. Yes, can you see? The rhizomes have certain buds which can eventually give rise to a new plant. Again, vegetatively propagated. The ginger have buds on them. These are the adventitious roots, false roots, these are the roots, and these buds can eventually give rise to a new plant. So, that is why they also have buds which can basically undergo the process of vegetative propagation. Moving backward, next we have talking about the last, which is the corm. All of you have seen corm, a short, stout, usually unbranched stems which grow vertically, yet it bears buds in axils and scaly leaves. Buds grow on the area shoot, new corm stored, the food stored at the base, example Amorphophallus, which is Zamicum, and Calocasia arbi. All of you have seen arbi at your home, all of you have seen sugarcane at your home. That is nothing, that is a corm. The difference between the rhizome and the corm is that the rhizome will grow horizontally. Yes, it is typically growing horizontally, but in case of corm, it is not growing horizontally, it is basically a swollen structure, little swollen structure. All of you have seen that. Yes, the difference between from bulbs as do not possess layered scale present in all the buds. They do not have the scales layers basically present on all the particular buds. Simple. You need to remember the example to remember the structure. Rhizome, ginger. Corm, Calocasia, Zamicum. Yes, Amorphophallus. Tuber, potato. Yes. So, this is children all about the underground stem. These are the certain modification which is very popular in day-to-day life because you consume them, and yes, these are the exceptions that the plant stem could be underground. The only I would say why we are calling them as underground stem, why we are considering them stem when they are basically underground, because they have nodes, they have internodes, they have scaly regions, they have buds to give rise to a new plant, and that particular feature is only limited to stem, it is not present in the roots. Simple. Yes, going back, next we have, since we have finished exploring, we have a particular question for you. Yes, below the water hyacinth, what I wish to propagate suggest the part which I can basically cut and create a new plant. Which part of this particular I can cut and grow a new plant? What I can do with this? Yes, simple. The correct answer would be this. This is an offset which it can be vegetatively propagated. Yes. Next question. Identify the underground modified stem to each plant and place their label. Yes. What is this? What is this? And what is this? Very simple. This is bulbs, this is tuber, and this is a rhizome. These are all the underground stem. Yes. And the last we have, coming to the end of our particular session, which is the stem. We have discussed all the modification of the stem, aerial, subaerial, underground. Everything has been discussed related to the stem. The stem is a part of the shoot system, it is always be negatively geotropic, but there are certain exception to stem which can be underground, and we have also seen certain modification of the stem. In some cases, in the some arid regions, there are certain stem which basically have the chlorophyll which can undergo the process of photosynthesis. So this is a very important part of this morphology of flowering plants, children. Please when we solve the questions, we have a practice session related to it. Do not miss it. And if you want to go through this session again, this will be always be on your Embibe app. Next we have the next topic will be related to, are these modifications only limited to stem? Yes. Do you think the shoot system is only limited to the stem? The further things we're going to study in the upcoming chapter. Next particular is your Embibe app. You can log in through your phone number or email ID. You'll get an OTP, enter that OTP and log in into this particular Embibe app. It is like one-stop solution. You can learn, you can practice, you can test, you can always see how much progress you have made. Yes, next we have the Embibe lens. What you can do, children, you have to just scan the text. It will highlight all the keywords and will make you show everything in the 3D. It's an amazing visual learning process. Tomorrow we're going to have a practice session related to the stem, and I request you to please attend that particular session so we can solve so many questions related to stem, so that you know whether you have understood the concept or not. If there is any doubt, we can basically discuss over there. Until then, keep imbibing. Take care. Bye bye.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.